everybody, welcome into Bayou Time. Harry McCullough here. For the second time in about 3 weeks, we have an officer-involved shooting, which has been investigated by the state police. And here to talk about it is from the state trooper, Ross Brennan, of course, the public information officer for Troop C. Thanks so much for being here. Can you tell us about the latest, this one involving HPD, which is the Houma Police Department?
Yeah. So yesterday evening, about 8:30 p.m., the Home Police Department, they received a call about a domestic disturbance with somebody who was armed in the 200 block of Polk Street. As soon as home police officers arrived on scene, that suspect at the residence started firing at the responding officers. This resulted in 3 of those officers actually discharging their service weapon back towards that suspect. Unbeknownst to that time that the suspect was actually struck. The suspect, who was Gary Van Leuven, he actually retreated back inside the house and barricaded himself. So at this point, now the SWAT team was called out and also negotiations. And after a lengthy standoff trying to get him to come out the house around midnight, he finally surrendered. And that's when it was discovered that he was struck during that initial shooting from the first responding officers. And ultimately, he was transported to a out-of-town hospital with non-life-threatening injuries, but no law enforcement officers were injured.
And nobody else at this time. No. So about a 4-hour disturbance. So did they ever send SWAT in, or they were able to talk him down?
They were talking about, they had some other tactics that they used, and again, with negotiations and stuff like that. But for the most part, after that first initial, it ended peacefully. And
nobody prior in the incident before, was anybody else injured?
No, just that one suspect who actually shot at the police officers.
Okay, Ross, I mentioned this is the second time, so in the last 3 weeks. So what does the state police do? This one involved the HPD, the other one involved Lafourche Parish officers. What is state police job here?
So right now, again, I mean, it's almost the beginnings of that same one in Cutoff. You have a domestic disturbance call with an armed individual, and as soon as officers respond, they're getting fired upon. Basically, state police, we come in as an outside agency to review everything, look at everything, basically take over. That way, it's not one department investigating themselves. Our detectives, they interview the officers involved. They interview, in this case, the subject, potential witnesses. We're also going to be looking for any witnesses that might have observed it, any types of maybe security camera footage. Basically, what you can about imagine for a thorough investigation, that's what we're going to do and try to go through everything. We also have the State Police Crime Lab come down. They document everything, whether it's forensics or firearms, things such as that.
How long would this kind of investigation take, do you think?
Sometimes they take months. What might seem maybe clear cut, you don't want to leave any stone unturned, because it might potentially affect when it goes to court, it might affect a case. So they definitely want to make sure that they take their time, make sure that everything's handled correctly. Whether that is a shooting investigation by state police or even a fatal crash investigation, sometimes, I mean, it might be 2 months before the crash report's available. But again, we just want to make sure that every avenue is looked at. That way, if it does go to court, something might not get thrown out because of maybe lack of investigation.
Sure. In this case, Van Leuven is still alive. He's at the hospital recovering from his injuries. In the other case that was down in Lafourche Parish, the assailant was deceased.
Correct.
Do you just wrap up an investigation like that, or is that ongoing? Do you have any update on what's happening in Lafourche Parish?
So that one's still in their investigation. They're still working on that one too. As far as the one from last night, charges are pending. Of course, once released from the hospital, they'll have a list of charges and actually arrest the person. But both of them, they're still currently inactive, their investigation.
So you don't know a timetable, and again, there wouldn't be any charges. Obviously, that suspect perished in that altercation.
Yeah.
There wouldn't be a timetable for those officers. I know usually they put those officers on desk duty, or I don't even know if they did that in this case. Usually, a lot of times you read about that.
Typically, it kind of just depends on the department and what their policy and procedure is as far as what happens. A lot of times it might be maybe administrative leave, but it just all depends. That's something that department has to make that decision on. But as far as timeline, like I said, there's no set timeline. Typically what happens, though, after we present the findings to the district attorney's office, and from there they'll take it and make a decision whether they want to pursue, any charges if there's any against any of the people involved in the situation.
Does this take the place of like internal police audits? I know in New Orleans they have an internal police audit. I know the woman that's now the sheriff.
Yeah.
That was her job. In New Orleans, would it still be state police, or would it be the internal?
Some departments, they investigate themselves. And it's just
somebody, they call you guys in for this.
Yeah, they call us in. Yeah, we're requested in. But some departments in Louisiana, they handle things themselves. Like New Orleans, that is one of them. So it just depends on the department and whoever's in charge of it and what their choices are.
Yeah, and how, besides all the rest of the duties of state police, how long will these investigations go, and does that hinder having state troopers on the road?
No, so whenever these investigations are done, they're typically done by our Bureau of Investigations, which is a whole separate division that handles things like this. Typically, whenever they first happen, like the shooting last night, we did have troopers that were on the scene, but it was more or less just responding to that initial call for help. Also, just providing maybe traffic control, things such as that. So, as far as the road patrol troopers, there's not really that many that are going to be taken away from their duties handling traffic enforcement, crash investigation, compared to those who are actually doing the investigation in the bureau.
Right, and you hear two incidents, you're going, whoa, one's an accident, two's a trend.
Yeah.
Or is something going on? These are kind of unrelated, I would think, huh?
Yeah, there's something that you can never tell. I mean, these are individuals that are making decisions, separate incidents, things like that. It just coincidentally they happen relatively close to each other.
But you had to respond to that, obviously, as the PIO from Troop C. You said you were there past midnight, and then you went right into working mode, which brings us to our second segment, which is. The sudden impact statement. So tell me a little bit more about that.
So school's back in session. We're about a month in, and no, sudden impact is full steam ahead. We are actually about to wrap up Vanderbilt Catholic, which was our first school. Unfortunately, last week we were going to try to have a mock crash, which I've seen before, but the rain didn't work out with us. So we're trying to replan, have another one, maybe have y'all back out to view that. But no, that's full steam ahead. We're actually about to start picking up with Houma Christian and also Covenant Christian. And then eventually we're going to move on to the rest of the high schools within Terrebonne Parish. And we're actually expanding the program into Assumption Parish. This will be the first year that's actually at Assumption High School, not just a crash, but the actual full program.
Yeah. So yeah, appreciate you, by the way, just kind of running on fumes and coming to give us an update on that. What is it with high school students that you prepare for? I think a lot of times when we start schools, we're thinking, hey, bus safety, don't be passing when you see the lights and stuff. But high schools present a completely different, a lot of times it's 15, 16, well now 16-year-olds that are just learning how to drive. Obviously we probably have a generation that's more distracted than anybody, technology and the cars and that kind of stuff. So it's a whole different kind of safety thing when you're going from the elementary to a high school. And
that's why we actually started, the way the Sudden Impact program is, we start with 10th graders because they're just learning to drive. So we're trying to instill those good driving habits as they're learning versus when they're seniors and it's already set in stone. So we give them their 10th grade year, their 11th grade year, they see a mock crash. So they actually see their classmates involved in a bad choice that they made. Somebody was drinking and driving, somebody wasn't wearing a seatbelt. Their senior year, that's when they see the mock trial. But actually something new that we started is that we actually also stepped into Nichols State University. So if those students who graduate from local high schools and actually go off to be freshmen as part of Nichols, they're actually requiring their freshmen to attend a 1-hour presentation that we're providing with Sudden Impact. So they're basically getting their 10th, 11th, 12th, and also their freshman year just to help instill those good choices, not drinking and driving, not driving distracted, wearing that seatbelt, things such as that, to hopefully reduce these fatal crashes and serious injuries that we have on our highways. Yeah, and look, we've had enough incidents in our area that everybody should know about. Were real high profile issues and unfortunate things. I was talking to my father-in-law the other day, he's mid-80s, and we're talking about when he went to school, they pretty much walked or rode a bike, and they had like 4 cars that were parked there, a couple of teachers that might have pulled up, and then, then you go to our day, and a few people had cars, but now the parking lots have to be expanded. It seems like almost every child gets a car, and that must present a whole different situation as far as preparation and abilities of when they start driving. I also meet a lot of parents say, my kid don't even want to drive. They really good with us driving them all the way around or doing Uber. So how is today's kids
drive? What's their ability? And
Yeah.
I know it's obviously not a, you can't put a whole generation.
Well-
but are they different nowadays?
It's a little different. So a person's first year of driving, a young person, they're actually 3 times more likely to get involved in a crash their first year compared to any other year of their life. And it all just goes down to inexperience. Another thing that we see a lot too with these, like I said, more kids have more cars, but a lot of kids like to carpool and ride together and go hang out with their friends. With Louisiana, what we see is that the more people you have inside the vehicle, the more chances of you getting involved in the crash because you have more distractions, people clowning around, joking, things such as that. So what we implemented in our state is we have a graduated driver's license law. So if you're 16 years old, right, you're not actually able to transport more than one person between the hours of 6 p.m. and 11 p.m. 11 p.m., you're not actually allowed to be, if you're 16.
Bring them to school, but not after.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. So basically, you bring your friends to the football game, but you can only bring your best friend home after. So you got to pick who you like the most, right? But it's all just to reduce that. The more people inside the vehicle, more distress, especially more young people in the car. That's when you have more distractions. Plus, you got all these. I mean, basically like an iPhone in the dashboard now with the car radios, and there's just so many different distractions. And it's not just young people. It's also older drivers. I say older, but like
I agree.
college age and beyond. I think anybody's susceptible to being easily distracted behind the wheel. I mean, even just looking out the window at, we see a lot of times too. We're working a crash on the side of the road, and we hear tires screeching next to us in the roadway because they were too busy looking at us investigating the crash, and they weren't paying attention and realize the cars in front stopped.
Sure. No. Look, I mean, we all got a GPS that's going. Yeah. You're trying to find directions to a place, which makes it very simple nowadays, but it does distract you a little bit. Obviously, you got text messages that we didn't have back in the day. So those are all things that are going. How are the kids receptive to when you guys come in, or do they, we got this, man?
Well, a lot of them think that it's a repeat of driver's ed. And a lot of them, they think it's going to be death by PowerPoint and just we really have to be here all day. But once you actually get going into it and they realize no, this is pretty cool. And it also gives us the opportunity to actually speak to them more on a personal level. Yeah, we're police officers and we're also, we have nurses in there too. We're all, professionals, but it gives us to be a little bit more personal, show that we are actually a human being. So it kind of breaks that wall down a little bit and actually have that dialogue, that conversation. They ask great questions and just be a resource for them. And for the most part, I mean, all the reviews, the students definitely like it.
So how long will this go on? So you do all the schools?
So we do all the schools, yeah. We do all the Terrebonne Parish schools. We got Central Lafourche, South Lafourche, and we're going to be starting Assumption, plus also Nichols freshmen. Right. So this is actually one of the biggest programs in the state down here in Troop C, and we're definitely busy.
I know that in the summer times you got the drive sober or get pulled over, and I guess that's just coming to an end? Yeah,
we just wrapped up our drive sober, get pulled over campaign. That was from August 19th to September 5th. We have an extra emphasis on impairment detection, also going out there and enforce it. We also, we do it any other day of the year, but there was a stronger push for it. And just also providing education, reminding people to get a designated driver, things like that. Unfortunately, during that time period, we actually, statewide, we investigated 13 fatal crashes. Troop C in our area, we investigated 3. There was one that was on August 26th. There was one on August 24th. And the most recent one was September 4th. There was a 20-year-old man that was driving LA1 in Raceland, heading southbound, and for reasons we're still investigating, he crossed the center line and ran off the roadway and struck a tree. We did blood tox and stuff like that. We're just waiting for those results to see if there might be some type of impairment. But I mean, anytime a young person loses their life, and it's tragic, a 20-year-old person.
Yeah, and on a Sunday and kind of in a congested area right there by the Walmart on LA1. You would think it wouldn't be involved like too much speed, that kind of stuff. But again, we don't want to jump to conclusions there. So the drive sober, for the most part. So you guys are wrapping up that program. What comes next? I guess the next one would be
really the holidays,
right?
Yeah, we're gonna have Thanksgiving being the most closest one. But you're starting to get into that time of the year where they have holiday parties, where it's Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas and stuff like that coming up. So there's gonna be another push for that also, whether it's maybe checkpoints or saturation patrols, things such as that. But the big emphasis was not only drive sober, but also buckle up too. Make sure that people are buckling up in their vehicles. Out of those 13 crashes, five of those fatals was actually unrestrained people. So you figure maybe if they had those seatbelts on, maybe we can eliminate 5 of those crashes there with fatal deaths.
Right. Speaking of checkpoints, coming from the Saints game a couple of Fridays ago, they had one on Bayou Blues. Like, I fooled them. No, I didn't. But I was kind of surprised. I was like, is that correct? But yeah, they certainly were checking people coming home from the Saints game. Yeah. Hey, let's go to a better deal, or not a better deal, but a different deal. Yeah. So you guys in Napoleonville had is it Stuff with Kids in Napoleonville? So
yeah. So last week, we give a shout out to Trooper Bernal Dito. That's his area that he works. It works Assumption, the river parishes, and he always visits the schools. And so he lined up a deal with Napoleonville Primary School to allow us to come in, give free potato chips that were donated by Zaps. Also, Renee Industries, they donated a Brooks snow cone mobile to come down and give them free snow cones. So about 450 students, we were there most of the day. They all got to come through, check out our units, have a good time, get some free stickers, some coloring books, and just hang out with us.
Get a snowball.
So. And a free snowball. What more can you ask for?
Yeah,
right?
It looked like you troopers were the ones lined up for those snowballs over there.
maybe after, right? But no, it was a great time, and that's one thing with our leadership we have at Troop C with Captain Bajeron. He's all about giving back to the community and things such as that. In fact, we actually this coming week tomorrow we have an event at Vacherie Elementary School. We're giving away Bluebell's donated free ice cream, so we're going to be doing the same thing over there. But just give back with the kids. I mean, it's maybe they might don't see that police that often in that community. So again, a positive interaction with them.
Well, and again, and I'll bring up this point again. It's good to see you guys in a normal state that's not a heightened, like you're not crowd control, you're not on the side of the highway, you're not responding to something bad. Yeah. It's a good way. But also, I would imagine for recruiting purposes, when those kids 10, 15 years from now, you know, it's hard to recruit police officers right now. We got a national shortage, just like teachers. So I'm sure that's a good way to kind of start that process.
They had a lot that came up that were like, I want to be a police officer when I grow up. So maybe plant that seed. You never know, it might grow into something in the future. But the kids really enjoyed it. In fact, one of them said it was the best day of their life. So that was pretty funny. But no, they definitely enjoyed it. And even if they don't want to be police officers, just show them maybe a potential different career. But just positive interaction, just having a good time with
the kids. Because look, there's been a lot of mixed messages, unfortunately, about the police over the last couple of years. And as positive as everybody wants to be on one side, sometimes on the other side, it's not so positive. What about your interactions with the community? And I'm sure when you bring snowballs, everybody's happy to see you. But what's it like out there? What's the temperature out there right now?
So we're very fortunate down in Troop C, and this isn't just coming from me. This is from people all over the state. The people down here are fantastic. There's a lot of support for the police down here. We have a great set of troopers that work at Troop C. Again, we try to give back to the community as much as we can, as far as it's a toy drive that we did in December, or we even had a group that wanted to donate money to the troop. We turned around and end up having them purchase stuffed animals for kids in crashes, like a traumatic event. So anytime that we can kind of give back, that's what we try to do. Even after the hurricane, we were out giving MREs, giving out food, giving out water. So we're definitely, the community loves on us. We try to return it back in some type of way. So we're definitely fortunate in Troop C down here.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. And I think it goes both ways, obviously. What about recruitment and for you guys? And I guess there's always openings, and you guys are always trying to get the best people looking for a career for that, right?
Yeah. So we do have an academy coming up. It's supposed to be in February of next year. The deadline to apply will be October 17th. If you want to apply, you can go to lsp.org. They have a Become a Trooper section. If you would like to email me at ross.brennan@la.gov, we can get that ball rolling too. Some of the requirements are you need at least 60 hours of college time. I think 3 years of prior law enforcement or 3 years military.
Right.
Yeah, or a combination of those. Also, if you go to lsp.org, those requirements are on that website too, so you can check that out. But yeah, we are going to be having an academy coming up. So if you're interested, and that's not just an accelerated one for prior law enforcement, this is open to everybody.
All right, Ross Brennan, thank you so much, man. We appreciate it.
Not a problem.
All right, we'll be right back from We'll Buy You Time after this.